is Monday.
And you can hear the whirring of its
Use the venting? Great. Because it's feedback. Wow. Not in,
Yeah.
even in the
Paul, okay. Paul's birthday is tomorrow, so he's going to get a brand new computer.
Let me see.
Which
If
is-
I can do it this way. I'm trying to be high. Actually, in the sauce.
Okay, no, I can move over to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm okay with it, actually.
Yes, long time no see. It's been crazy around here. Okay. Yes? Then watch TV.
Yeah, watch TV. For
Ricky.
you have to wait till we're done.
I swear. And then you wonder why we can't do this. Right now I have a dog coming up. Sit down. Sit down. Go.
I bet you those big network people
Actually
don't have this problem.
They don't.
Yeah.
They're going to do a professional show. Speaking of which, this is Relationship Rehab with Lee and Paul from coupledom.com.
That's right. So yes, I am getting a new computer specifically to be able
deal
to
with
handle all this. There.
Yeah.
Because we got all kinds of, our producer hooked us up with a bunch of cool software and that kind of stuff. So there's going to be all kinds of professional. My computer can't handle it.
And the reason being that it can't handle it is because Paul has some not so good habits with his laptop.
There is that. Oh, also the computer still can't handle it. Because
No,
the
of course not.
processor is,
But you also toasted it.
well, a little bit, yeah. Yeah, I have a little problem with the. You get your microphone because.
I know.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's the computer I have right now. It runs too hot, so the fans are always on and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. So we're working on it. So
Yeah.
keep getting better and better.
Yeah. I mean, like next week we'll have to do the show completely differently because we'll doubt that they'll have your computer by then.
Right. So we might do it on the phone or something like that.
It runs hot around us. Yeah. Yeah. Now, the funny thing is that all of his computers, all of his laptops have run hot. And then it's like, well, why? I don't get it. You know, and we get him like the special fans that he hooks up because he's not good with them. And he doesn't behave with them. And you know, this is like the same thing you learned about cars.
Like,
You have to be nice to them.
yeah.
And he just doesn't get it. And then it's like, well, it should be able to deal with it. Why? Because you said so?
I don't turn my computer off.
Ever. Ever. He never turns it off.
Yeah.
Okay? Then he does things like place it on a carpeted floor.
Yeah.
Therefore, I mean, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm
bad.
not the IT
I'm
girl. I'm not the techie girl. I'm just the talented, you know, the beauty. I don't do, you know, I'm the smarty one with the information. I don't do any of this techie stuff. Would I be right?
Yeah.
Yes, I am right. You know why?
My maintenance talent.
No, actually, no. If my high maintenance is like, you know, feeding the brain. Yes, my love.
Oh. This is not quick. This is why I said.
Okay, then put him somewhere else. See? Tomorrow's his birthday. He's going to Disneyland. Because that's where all 47-year-olds go. So, is it 47? I think? Yeah. 47-year-olds go to celebrate their birthday. Yeah. Paul doesn't believe in all that save electricity stuff. So, yeah. So, the last few weeks have been interesting for us. Let's see. My parents came in. Wow. But being that last time we talked about parents on this show, we got in trouble. I'm not going to bullshit. Actually, my parents said to me, "Say whatever you want to about us. We don't care." Because those are my parents. Okay? And if other parents are watching, there. Yeah, the visit was actually pretty nice. We went to Vegas and had a good time with them. Had a really good time with my dad. My mom in Vegas and in real life has this, basically has their ADHD. And I'm not saying that as a joke. My mother really does have ADD. And so sitting there with her, you know, playing Keno or whatever for hours and hours wasn't going to happen. So I got to sit with my dad, and we had a really nice time. We talked and we laughed and we joked around, and then came back. So it was very, very easy, very nice. You know, visiting. There wasn't a lot of sitting around and visiting. We didn't really do that.
Yeah, see, this is where
we was all doing
I could possibly get in trouble because I enjoyed my in-laws visit.
It's that kind of trouble.
Yeah.
I didn't say I didn't enjoy it.
I mean, okay, to be very honest, last time I talked about somebody visiting, scram, Rick. No, it's not. Go watch TV. I was, you know,
One.
we were moving. My daughter was, you know, aging right in front of me. I was just
She was about to go off to college.
Right. I was extremely stressed. I've already explained that with a zillion times. This time,
And that's not an excuse.
yeah, this
According
time,
to other people.
I'm in my house. We've got money in the bank and alcohol in the cabinet. So, yeah, I was completely stress-free. Right. It was a nice visit. What can I say?
There was also not a lot of, you know, we didn't have to entertain them.
No.
We went, like if we had to go somewhere, we went with them. And that was pretty much it. We didn't do anything else, did we? I mean, it's not like we sat there and had to talk all day long.
No, we did our thing, and it was fun. You know, I of course think that, you know, my mother-in-law's ADD is the funniest thing in the universe.
He thinks it's hilarious. I personally get really concerned. It's
yeah.
Like, I mean, it's kind of like you have to put a bell on her because she just takes off.
Vegas was the funniest one. We walked into a casino, and her eyes began to twinkle as she wandered away. She was holding my son at the time. She just wandered away.
No, we got out. We get to the hotel. I'm getting out, and my dad's getting out of the car. And wow, Rick is being a pain in the butt today.
right now.
Okay, so we get to the casino. My mom gets out of the car. I don't know how she dressed. First of all, the whole trip, my mom sat basically behind me in the minivan, and it would take her 4 minutes to get out of the car any regular day. I mean, enough so that we had to wait for her to open the door, and then the kids can come out. I mean, it was just like, when we get to Vegas, you would have thought there was some sort of Chinese fire drill on the car, because my mother hopped out, had both kids in tow, and ran into the casino. And I'm like,
She likes taking.
and I mean, the bags are still in the car. And so I'm looking at my dad. My dad's just laughing. You know, we take the stuff out, we give it the bells and then whatever. We get inside, and Paul's at the registration desk. I'm looking for my kids. And the kids are actually standing with him, and I go, where did Mom go? And Paul's just laughing. And he's like, oh, she sort of took off. And I'm like, oh. So, yeah. My mother's family has severe gambling issues. I mean, the stories go, I remember one of my, like, traumatic childhood memories was being woken up really early in the morning by my dad. It's like around 5 in the morning. Like, your grandmother's missing. And I'm like, what? I mean, like, what the hell, you know? And I remember my sister and I got up, and it was a really foggy morning. Like, it was starting to, like, you know, it's Los Angeles, you get fog a lot, and it wasn't really Los Angeles, it's Torrance, to be specific.
LA County.
LA County. So we're closer to the beach, so definitely had fog more often. And so it was really foggy, and we're up, and my mother's crying on the phone, and where's Grandma? And my dad's like, oh, I know where she is. She's probably playing in a casino. And my mom's like, how can you say that? She's probably dead in a ditch. And of course, you know, the kids are listening to all this stuff, which is not healthy. So, finally, around 6:30 in the morning, we get a call from Grandma that she's at a casino, but she had car trouble. Well, the car trouble was that she drove her car through the don't go out of this way
With the spikes?
and she popped all 4 tires. So it wasn't enough to just hit 2.
No.
She was like booking out of that
They kept
thing,
going.
and she got all 4 tires at 6:30 in the morning.
And you're actually surprised that she's still alive. This is a woman who was committed to everything.
No, the thing is that my aunt, her sister, my great aunt, was the same way.
Yeah.
They literally, when we would go to Vegas as kids, you know, I mean, if you grow up in Los Angeles, you go to Vegas. You know, the adults go to Vegas. It's not that far away. It's, you know, it's an interesting trip. You go to the desert, whatever. We went there a lot. Why? Because, you know, we had a lot of gambling people in our family. And you go to, with the kids would go to Circuit and have a good time. We would go with my mom's mom and my great aunt and all that. We would literally walk into the casino and then never see them again on the trip. Never. We wouldn't eat with them. We wouldn't do anything with them. They weren't there anymore. And then basically they would come back to the room and refresh themselves, because that's how they changed their life. So taking a shower and getting dressed was changing their life. No sleep, mind you. There was no sleep. Weekend. You'd get there Friday, you'd leave there Sunday, and you'd basically be pulling them off a machine or a table on Sunday. That was the trip.
Yeah, we could go in.
I just what?
At least you got to go
I know.
in.
I'm just pointing out. Yeah, lock it up. Yeah. All has its own trauma.
That's right.
His own addiction stuff. Those were mine. Well, then there wasn't really. I mean, of course, you know, my sister was more dramatic about these things, but like, calling on the white courtesy phone from my parents at 1 o'clock in the morning. You know,
That's fun.
That's just fun.
Right.
Now, when we took him to Vegas, the first night we went to Circus with the kids, and we lost them. They told us, oh yeah, we're going to be around here. Well, they weren't. They lied. So I'm walking around the casino, and the way that it works is like the casino is like a circle, but it also has like another line going out, and there's like another casino in the other area. And I figured, okay, they wouldn't go there because they said they were going to, well, finally, after like 2 circles, I went out that way, found them. But by the time I was getting to them, I was already getting that, just triggering those feelings of being a kid where I couldn't find them. I was like this close to throwing myself on the floor and screaming out, "Mommy!" But I'm better.
Of course, being that I have no genetic propensity to turn into them, I laughed for 2 days. Solid laughing. Thought it was hilarious, every part of it.
Yeah, you could have picked that.
Oh, yeah, probably.
So, I mean, and it's no wonder that we are talking about attitude. It's no wonder that we're exploring that on our blog, and we're writing a lot. We're going to be writing a lot about attitude, leading all the way up through November, because attitude is such a big topic.
Especially this time of year.
Yeah.
Moving into.
Well, I think that's. I mean, what we don't get. I mean, there's so many great quotes on attitude. Attitude is everything, and they're right. There is no greater definer of how you're going to experience things than your attitude. And it's important, such an important thing to have a good attitude, because that's good. We talk about being happy. We talk about, on the show, it's like being happy, having a good relationship, and foundationally, everything has to do with your attitude.
Scary.
I mean, it is scary because when you figure that it is cooler now to be cynical, that kind of messes up anything that you'd ever. I mean, when you talk about I want to be happy, I want to have a good relationship, whatever, and then you maintain a cynical attitude.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the world right now, the people who get the media play, I mean, the kids who are cynical are the ones who get the media play. The old adults who,
seen it all.
Yeah, seen it all, and everything is fit now, and all that, get the most media play. The people are like, I'm happy. Yeah, you don't see that.
No. In fact, you get the opposite reaction from people like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna discuss that here. And if you want to know more about it, read some of the stuff we're writing. This might sound like shooting your own. Some of the stuff that's coming out of the blog this week is pretty good stuff. So, and it's important stuff.
Yeah.
Foundationally important. When I say things like that, it's like, we could talk about these concepts like happiness and love and all that stuff. All of that is based on what your attitude is. Mm-hmm. So, what is attitude? We talk about it. They have all those motivational posters for it, and what is it? It's defined as obviously it's something we can't touch. We don't know where it is in the brain. We don't know pretty much where we hold these attitudes. So when we have things like that, we call it a hypothetical construct. We know it's there. We know that it probably has some size to it because we have lots of attitudes, but it's a theory at this point, okay? So it's a hypothetical construct that measures our like and dislike of something, okay? And of course that could be, we could be discussing a place, a person, a thing, any kind of noun, a state of being is also something that we can have an attitude for. And these are what we call the object attitude, the attitude object or object attitude, it's one of those terms. There's a big big slice of psychology that studies attitude and what it means. You know, and it's as simple as, you know, do you like it or not like it kind of study, and it goes all the way to Jung's one of his 57 definitions of psyche and personality, which is, that's a big deal. Really.
Because I even know that it's really important when you talk about like resilience and
right.
for recovery of addiction, for domestic violence,
everything.
For child abuse.
Everything is based on your attitude.
Right.
And, you know, and we'll get into that. In fact, on Monday you'll read a post that I just wrote about that's going to define everything. You know, that's a big deal. And the thing is, it's not just your attitude as a client, it's the psychologist, or the therapist, or the counselor's attitude towards the client.
Mm-hmm.
And their ability to get better, which is pretty big. That's a really big deal. I mean, a lot of people don't think about, you know, first of all, you have the big, you know, argument whether go to therapy or not go to therapy. And then when you get there, most people just, you know, figure, okay, this is the therapist, and that's it. You know, they don't see getting a therapist kind of like getting a doctor, because they figure, well, you know, one of them is going to be the same as all of them, and it's not true. You know, you have to connect with your therapist, and you have to find someone that believes in you.
Which is actually a lot of the literature for therapists talk about that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, besides studies and that there's a whole bunch of, you know, what is the connection? How are you connecting?
Well, when we talk about things like transference and things like that, and I mean, we're going back to Freud when he was talking about things about transference. What he was really talking about is what is your attitude towards your client,
right?
And how important that was even back then, and it was kind of like dismissed it. And I don't think that therapists nowadays really look at that and how they feel about their client, because then what happens is that, oh, okay, it wasn't successful. You know, well, why wasn't it? Because the therapist really doesn't look at themselves and say, okay, do I like this person? Not. If you don't like them, because that's not natural. I've had clients I didn't like, you know, and then I have to deal with me, and if I can't fix me and how I feel about them, I would refer them. Then again, I was kind of special. Not special, you know. Anyway.
My attitude towards my son right now is...
Anyway, so if you like or dislike of something, so basically it's a judgment. No big deal. It's a judgment. We do judgments all day long, constantly. You know, we're like survey whores, because it's like, do I like it or don't like it? I like it or I don't like it. And you know, and it's funny, you don't notice it very much. You notice it most with little kids and old people.
Yeah.
Because little kids and old people will always tell you what they like and they don't like. And that's complete attitude. I like it or don't like it. And that's, you know, when you look at your attitude as being a judgment, then it makes it more fluid. However, we don't see attitude as judgment. What we do is think our attitude is us. We think our attitude is our personality. And it isn't.
No.
It's something that you can change. It is something that can be fluid.
Matter of fact, we can say better easily if you look at it that way. I mean...
It can, but it's hard to if you don't acknowledge how it is just a judgment. Okay? Because, you know, you could have one thing in a room and people will judge it a million different ways. It doesn't make it right. And unfortunately, we live in a society nowadays that we think that our judgments and opinions are law. You know, that's really, we do. And then I'm going to explain why that is. There is a reason for that.
Yes, that's just stubbornness.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
However,
yeah,
I mean, it's like, that's a woodpecker. Can you hear that? Can't hear that. Anyway, so.
I don't like our woodpeckers. Just so that you know, that's my attitude towards woodpeckers right now, is that they wake you up at 5 in the morning and 6 in the morning. I don't like what
Knocking on your glass.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we're stupid. Anyway, so once we realize that our judgments define our experience, then maybe we could start changing that, okay, and see what a big role attitudes play in our life. So, this is the problem. What we say to people when they're going to experience something that is rough, keep an open mind. That's kind of difficult to do. What does that mean, to keep an open mind? Reserve all attitudes, judgments, opinions, and let something, have what we would consider a pure experience. But that's impossible. Even by saying, I'm not going to judge this, you are judging. Even by saying that I'm not going to have any attitudes about this, you're having an attitude. Even by saying that, I'm not going to form any opinions, you're having an opinion. It's very difficult.
Unless you're a newborn.
Unless you're a newborn. And even then, it only takes 2 seconds to create the basis of that. It's like...
but for any of you newborns watching...
Yes, you shouldn't
this might not be a...
You should be.
Fun of you. So.
But they shouldn't be watching.
No?
This is not a good show.
Not even for newborns? What?
That's my attitude of it.
Yeah.
Newborns would curtail my F-word usage.
Oh, I think most newborns I know
have heard me say
it. Yeah.
But
they heard it in utero. Go ahead. You were saying something about attitude.
Anyway. Yeah. So this is how it works. How do you create an attitude? There's an ABC model now, not to be confused with the cognitive behavioral ABC model. A cognitive behavioral ABC model says that I think, therefore I feel, and then I do. I don't agree. I'm not a cognitive behavioral therapist, mainly because I don't agree with that. I think that we feel, and then we think, and then we do. That's the B2 house.
Okay.
So you have your affect. Your affect would be your feelings, your emotions. So something causes an emotion. Then you think about it, and then you decide in that cognition, is this a positive or negative thing? Do I like it or not like it? That's the thinking part. And then the cognition is the thought turning into behavior. Okay.
So is this the attitude ABC thing?
Yes. The B is actually should be after the C. It's weird. They just like, the thing is that psychologists really like to have catchy names. Unlike doctors that will give something, a word like Heimlich and things like that are just nasty and xiphoid processes.
Yeah.
Things that aren't very pretty, and they just name things after doctors. Psychologists like catchy names.
Yes.
We don't name things after people. It's like, variable ratios and different kind of theories get different kind of, catchy things.
Okay, so do this ABC thing.
So you feel it, you think about it,
okay,
and then you act on it. Okay? Actually, you could actually put the B like this. You feel it, you react to it, then you make a thought about it. Okay? That's actually probably the way to do it. That's better. You see, right here, I'm learning. That's it. While I'm talking to you. So, this is how we create attitudes our whole life. It's like, as we experience things, we start creating more and more attitudes to it. So,
Get more coffee. We need a coffee spot.
So, the first time we drive, for example, is really going to define a lot of our driving. So, the first time you're driving, you're excited, whatever, and these are the emotions going through it. There's also anxiety during that time. And let's say while you're driving and you're excited, you make a mistake. That mistake paired with the anxiety could make you decide, could create the cognition that you really need to be on the ball when you're driving, so you become an anxious driver. Okay? And, and it could go the other way, where you do a really good job, you perform really well, and you become very cocky in your driving. But whatever it is, it's like it forms an attitude. First time you make love, first time, the first times really define it. However, you're already walking in with an attitude. And I think that's people don't get about attitude, is that your attitude changes your experience. And so this is when we go back to the therapy thing. Or let's go into relationships. If you have, let's say that your experience has been that everybody you know breaks up. Well, you see, that's really not your experience. Your experience is that you have an attitude. Your attitude says 50% of all marriages break up, so marriage is as statistically sound as a coin toss. Okay? So what you do once you have that attitude is that you look for evidence to back up that attitude. Okay? Now, remember, you could exchange words like opinion and judgment for attitude in this scenario. So, this is what your brain does. Your brain wants you always to be right. Okay? Your brain does not work with multiple. Your brain doesn't like ambivalence. Your brain doesn't like wishy-washiness. Your brain doesn't like being in the, I don't really know. It doesn't. It likes to be very, cut and dry. Yes, no. Think of it as a computer. It's either a 1 or a 0. So, when you have this attitude that all marriages break up, whatever, what your brain does is that it creates evidence to support your theory. And how does it do that? It'll do things like this. It will listen to the news. Let's say you're driving your car. You've got, NPR on. And as you're listening to, to the news and all this stuff, it's going to catch things that are going to agree with your position. For example, if you're a Republican, you're going to hear that Democrats are bad. If you are thinking that relationships are shit, you're going to be hearing about this such and such a celebrity getting divorced, the new statistics about relationships and, how they don't work. But you're not going to hear all the happy stories. It just won't register in your brain. It just won't. And the reason being that would go against your attitude. It's called dissonance theory. It's like this idea that your brain's only going to pick out the information that agrees with your opinion. Okay?
Now this isn't fluffy stuff, if you will. This is the major, one is the fundamental of all experimental sciences. That's the reason why we do double-blind studies and things of that sort, is to remove attitudes from the study. Because if not, you're always going to end up picking up what you want. This also goes right to basic neurology.
And when they say attitudes in studies, they have an observer bias. I mean, that is an actual term
Right.
we use in experimental design, that we try to remove the observer bias from anything that we do. For example, that, when we think of experimentation, we think of the doctor in the lab coat with the clipboard, making observations. Well, that right there kills a study.
Exactly.
That right there, any scientist worth his salt, whether behavioral or hard sciences or whatever, will look at that and go, that is a flawed study. Because the moment that my opinion walks into a room, I have ruined a study.
And then the magic of having computers now have made it better. So now they look at who programmed the computer to see what bias,
Right.
what attitude was actually programmed.
And in fact, the statistics are even created so that you have an error, that you could calculate how much error is in your study.
They're mathematical terms.
I mean, it's really, this is how big attitude is.
Right.
The people have had a great math around it just to factor it out. That's pure behavior.
Everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Even, I mean, that's, we talk about, okay, here's an example. I remember years ago getting a job, and it was to do domestic violence work. I had never done that. I had worked with child abuse. I had worked with child abusers, sex offenders, things like that. I never worked with domestic violence. Now
we're talking about perpetrators.
Perpetrators. Yeah.
So they have the bit of a difference.
Yeah, I've always worked with the perpetrators. I don't like working with victims. Attitude. I found that the victim mentality kind of like, I don't know. So I react to it. Okay. So at the moment they put me in a group with domestic violence, now you would think, okay, well, aren't you going to beat the shit out of somebody who's a sex offender? Well, that was the thing. It was like, that was one of the first times I had to challenge my own opinion and my own attitude, because I realized that I wasn't going to serve anybody if I thought of sex offenders as wretches of society that should have been shot a long time ago.
Why do therapy?
Why do therapy with them? Why not just, dig a big hole and throw them in? I mean, so that there was soul searching involved when I started working with these people, and deciding that this is the end effect of the cycle of abuse. That when you get abused, then you have the propensity of being an abuser. So these are the end effects of kids who were abused. And once I looked at that, I could definitely have more compassion for them. So when I walked into a domestic violence thing, I didn't have that. I didn't have that explanation to myself, that shift in attitude. And I remember it so clearly because, one, I was afraid. Because I'm in a room with 15 guys, and it's me in a room with 15 guys who were there because they beat women.
And your security.
And there was no security. There was no guard outside the door. There was no, somebody that could go help me and that would rush in and with a taser or anything like that.
Basically, the people had rented an office somewhere and she had to shoot.
Yeah.
It was one of those situations.
Yeah. And working with these guys, sitting there, I was anxious. I mean, there was palpable anxiety. I looked forward to seeing my sex offenders. Stuff is bad. That these guys scared me. The sex offenders didn't scare me. One, because I wasn't their type, obviously, because they're pedophiles. And two, because, you know, I had that attitude already changed. And I was safer in that group, because that was all my attitude. But I'm in this group of men who, you know, I'm a mouthy broad. I know that. I don't know my place. You want to know my place?
No, you're wrong.
No, you're wrong. I'm not that kind of a woman that I you know, I definitely needed to be disciplined. Okay? So,
from their point of view.
From their point of view.
Yeah.
And there was, you know, and I would do these in Spanish because I am a Spanish speaker. And one of my benefits of being a Spanish speaker is that we definitely work all the time in like Los Angeles, Miami, and so on. So
even that was a place where the attitude had to shift some, because there was a lot of, when you first started doing all Spanish groups, you were concerned with your senses.
Right. You know, I mean, I speak fluently, I read, I can write, and all that stuff, but was I, you know, the terms, things like that, were funny. Anyway, so I remember it was like a few weeks into it, and, you know, I'm a very action-oriented therapist. You know, there isn't a lot of fluffiness. You know, there wasn't a lot of fluffiness, you know, in the beginning. And so it was really getting clear on what their story was, why were they in that situation. When you're in a group, it isn't like a group discussion. You don't just open it up to, hey, you know, what do you guys think about this? Not all the time, anyway. You'd be working with individuals within the group, and then the way that the group process works is that people listen to this person's experience, and they learn, and they're able to, you know, connect with how they did something, why they did something, and how that was dysfunctional. And they can see it in other people. And usually the way that things work is that we see things in other people first, before we see it in ourselves. So, we're doing our thing, and then there was this big guy, big Mexican guy, ham-fisted. I mean, the guy, 3 of my fingers were one of his. He was an ex-professional boxer in Mexico, and, you know, especially with domestic violence, yeah, a guy like that was scary. You know, the fact that he hit a woman with a fist, I mean, come on. And then, you know, to try to get him to get, like, dude, you could have killed this woman. The fact that they didn't get you on attempted murder, you know. So, after a few weeks, obviously I get more comfortable with these guys. I start shifting my attitude as I start understanding. Still scared. And this guy, basically I'm pushing him, because that's what I do. And finally he just looked over to me and goes, you know, no woman's going to tell me what to do. And there were several bad words attached to that in Spanish. And I remember this so clearly. It's one of those memories that you have, like where the time stands still, and you know you have to do something, you know, and everything was working in slow motion. The guy said that to me, he looked at me, he gave me a smirk, and my brain is just like, do something quickly. And before I knew it, I was already standing. And I walked over to him, and I got right in his face. And I said, you know, this pejorative term is going to tell you what's exactly. Yeah, that was.
That wasn't the word? Beautiful.
And that was none of these words were.
Oh, okay.
So then I remember going to sit down, my knees were shaking. I was terrified. I sat down, and You know, I was like taking little choppy breaths the whole day. Sat down.
I enjoyed my pain.
I sat down and I looked at the guy, and the guy just said, "Oh." And then I never had any problems again. At that moment, I guess taking my power back, you know, feeling empowered, my attitude shifted toward working with compulsive violence. Because my experience of it was that I did have power in that room, obviously, but I hadn't experienced that power. It was a you know, it was a term out there. It wasn't real to me. So then now my experience was that this was positive and that they respected the power, so I didn't have to be afraid of them. And then I could shift my attitude because I could actually be an agent of change for them. Great. Now it's really cool. But and then what happens is that once you shift that in your head, then all of a sudden you start seeing and experiencing and gathering evidence to, hey, this is working. Mm-hmm. Because for that guy to kowtow to me, for that guy to get that I was the one in power there. This is a man who actually fought police who were arresting him. He had no respect for the police, but now he had respect for my authority. And that was his first step in getting better, because he could respect other people's authority. And that, all of that worked. That as my attitude shifted, his attitude shifted. And then he could start seeing that all of the thing was about power and control. And that was, you know, that's the basis of all domestic violence. So, that was a really good example for me as to how I needed to always have a very positive attitude towards my client. So, okay, here we go. Attitudes. Why do we think that 50% of all marriages break up?
I know that there's statistics about it.
Yes, there are statistics about it. But why do you think?
I don't know.
Attitude. The attitude of, there are actual attitudinal studies, and that's actually how they call them, where they ask somebody before they experience something, what do you think your experience is going to be? Mm-hmm. Something very simple. Well, I think it's going to be good. Okay. And what about you? Well, I've heard some things. This isn't my thing. I don't think it's going to be very good. Then you get I've heard some good reviews, some bad reviews. I don't know. Well,
guess what the outcomes are.
Guess what the outcomes are. The people who thought they were going to have a positive experience had a positive experience. People who had a negative experience had a negative experience. Mm-hmm. It is a belief, because attitudes are beliefs, judgments, opinions. Mm-hmm. And this is what we do. And we don't realize this is what happens. Whenever we experience anything, we create a decision about that experience. That decision, which is a choice, obviously, becomes a belief. Those beliefs become concretized in your brain. So you actually create neural bundles that hold that belief. Okay? So, what does your brain do whenever it experiences anything? It looks for evidence to confirm your belief. Actually, over and over and over.
It can only really see that evidence because those neural bundles are the first things to light up.
Right.
So they light up. You've already made that pathway. So it follows that belief system. That belief system becomes hardwired into your brain. It's the only thing you can see.
Yeah. So then, when we see people that are so, let's say, fanatical. Let's say, I'm not saying it's political or anything like that, but I find it very interesting to watch, like Fox News concerning things like the Occupy Wall Street movement. And the reason why is because you're in the beginning of the movement, it was very unorganized. It was really just a group of people that felt that we were incensed.
Right.
And Fox News was looking at this going, I don't get it. Okay? But I know it's bad. Exactly. It was like, I don't get what they want, but I know it's bad. Then, after a week, they started drawing, I mean, not Fox News, but the movement draws parallels to what they're saying, what the Tea Party said, which were almost exactly the same. Fox News, praising Tea Party, condemns Occupy. Why? Because the Tea Party is also condemning the president, which is a Democrat, so then they can get behind that. They can't get behind this, even though they're not, they're kind of upset with the president too. Mm-hmm. So then now, every day becomes this, I've got to find what's wrong with you people. Because they can't really blame. I mean, it's like, I get what you guys are doing. I just can't support it because it seems very liberal. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I have to vilify it so that it makes sense for me. So what was the latest thing? Acorn was behind it. Mm-hmm. Acorn being the big black boogeyman. And literally from like the Obama stuff. So I'm like watching this going, God, it's just amazing that they can't see that it's basically the same feeling of, getting sober, and so, and they're going to see whatever they're going to see. Mm-hmm. They're going to see, oh, they're just a bunch of hippies. Or they're going to see, wait a minute, these aren't a bunch of hippies. See, it's like, and every day you see a different side of it, mainly because there are a million different sides to it. Our brain's only going to pick up what we want to see. Oh, there are a bunch of hippies pooping in the street. Or you could say, oh my God, this is a revolution. It's a revolution toward the unfairness. You could see it like that. Or you could say, these are a bunch of Democrats trying to do a Tea Party movement. Or there's so many different sides, and whatever your belief system is, whatever your concretized belief system, whatever neural bundles you've got in your brain, that's how you're going to see it.
Right.
Nothing ever gets us like, oh my God, what a surprise. That's so cool.
10 minutes ago. Somebody is not happy with this day.
So yeah, basically our whole lives are looking for evidence to agree with us because of our attitude. That's it. We believe in relationships, we believe in marriage. That story this week about a couple, actually last week, that died together, that had been married for 72 years.
Died holding hands.
They died holding hands. That story resonating with us. Mm-hmm. Other people look at it, and see, and it resonated with a lot of people. And I think that the bottom line is that we might have negative attitudes with relationships, but I think that has more to do with our fear of getting hurt instead of relationships on a whole. One of the scariest things, one of the things that we think about the most when we talk about the least is death, and how we would react to the death of someone that we love. We think about it, we don't mention it because it scares the crap out of us, and so we create this attitude around relationships so that we shield ourselves from the prospect of having to live without someone we love. Okay? So then when we see people like that, who die, and it's like almost like you can project yourself into their afterlife. You're holding hands. And apparently she kept holding his hand long after he died. And he wouldn't let go of it. It's like you almost can believe that they're together in the afterlife. And once you can do that, then you're like, oh my gosh, there's hope. And so the reason why this kind of story resonates in this extremely cynical world, where we're at each other's throats because of political beliefs or religious beliefs, that story resonates with us because there's hope. And we're kind of lacking that right now. So, that's what I think of. That's my opinion about it.
Okay, we've got like 5 minutes left, so say something fun. That's very,
Oh, the bummer?
yeah.
The bummer?
You talk about,
Deepish bummer?
yeah, and people dying, holding hands. So, it's sad. It is a beautiful story, but it's sad. Say something funny.
That's funny. Now it's cartoons. Now I want to talk about cartoons.
Right, now we make cartoons.
But you see, that's conflict.
Oh, yeah.
This is why you push me to change the subject. There's a lot of death.
I do.
Those are his issues.
Yeah.
Not my issues. I don't have that problem with it.
No. Okay, we both do.
No. Of course, everybody does.
Yes.
And then we don't talk about it because, Jesus, what a downer. I mean, seriously, slit your wrist and that, that's so depressing. So yeah, no, we'll talk about that later. So yeah, attitude. Change it. You know, it's amazing how...
Or don't if you've got a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, being that one of ours has a screaming
hopeful girl. See, that's
a good attitude.
This is the thing about having a negative attitude. People, I mean, like, they would see things like hopeful girl, and they would get pissed.
Yeah.
And because, one, it kind of like, crushes into their belief system. So, of course, your brain immediately goes to creating an opinion about hopeful girl.
Right.
Like, oh, she's full of shit. Yeah. Hopeful girl. That girl's on something. You're right. I mean, if you look at all
or
the...
Or she had the... No, and you can only go up from there.
I would go to... Look at how many terms we have about people who are hopeful and cheery. Oh, they're wearing rose-colored glasses.
Oh,
yeah. It's like they almost make people who are happy seem retarded. Mm-hmm. And I'm using that as a proper clinical term.
Oh, yeah. Very good.
Yeah. We talk to people and we're, hopeful, mm-hmm. and we have positive attitudes and we're happy. Immediately, all these terms start popping into their heads because they can't believe that people could genuinely be happy and have any semblance of intelligence. Because if you knew what was out there, you wouldn't be happy. If you knew what was out there, you couldn't be cheery or hopeful. Life as a whole, and your whole, existence is trying to get out of it. That's, and it's like we strive in society to be cynical. And being cynical is actually more praised than, if you look at people like Gore Vidal and stuff like, most cynical human being in the world. Oh, he's just so good.
Yeah. You have to choose to be happy.
Yeah.
And
that's the bottom line. And we choose our attitude, so I choose to have a positive attitude. Because life is too fucking miserable to walk around with a negative attitude.
Are we going to be on next week?
Are we going to be on next week? No, we're actually going to be at a conference next week.
Okay. So.
Yeah, we've got a really busy, our next month and a half is going to be like crazy.
Okay, so nothing next week?
Nothing next week, the following week, yeah. Okay. So nothing on the 4th, mm-hmm. but we will be back on the 11th and on the 18th.
In 2 weeks?
Yes.
Which means that hopefully I'm home.
Yeah, true that. Okay, so we send you lots of love and kisses. How many? Oh, we got it. So the next time, I have no idea what we're going to be talking about the next time.
Yeah. We'll let you know.
We have lots of positive feelings about this conference.
Right.
We know great things are going to come of it,
mm-hmm.
because that's the kind of thing we make sure.
Yeah.
So, kisses to everybody who watched.
Right.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Be good to yourself.